How big can I get my heart to be?
Thought Media Network proudly presents
How much love can I get flowing out of me?
The Real Talk Sisters. Deep, unfiltered, soulful conversations with Reverend Dr. Pjae Stanley, Reverend Kim Andrews, and Reverend Melinda Wood Allen.
How big can I get my heart to be?
Join us for Real Talk on Real Issues, Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Central, 1 o'clock Mountain. And now, let's join the Real Talk Sisters.
How big can I get my heart to be?
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey now.
Good to see you. We're back.
Yes, good to be here. Always good to be seen as opposed to the opposite.
So we're the Real Talk Sisters. I am Reverend Melinda Wood Allen from the Church of One Love in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. And I am Reverend Dr. Pjae Stanley from Harmony Spiritual Center in Fort Worth.
And I am Kim Andrews, spiritual leader of Unity Spiritual Center in Sexy. Today we are talking about oneness versus duality. Oneness versus duality. And we'll get to that, but do we want to do a quick check-in?
Yeah, let's do a quick check-in. You start.
This is your idea.
And I'll have you know, I do want to say, I meant to say this before, that I am now known of the three of us as the quiet one.
Huh?
What do you mean? What do you mean now known? What are you doing?
So that came up while I was by myself. The two of you were off doing your thing. And I was by myself, and somebody put that in the comments. This is the quiet one, talking for an hour.
Oh, someone said that?
Yeah. So I'm just
They obviously haven't spent enough time watching the Real Sisters, the Real Talk Sisters.
Because what they don't know is that you can be quiet, but you can also command the room.
So moving right along.
But I've never been quiet a day in my life. Never happened.
I am, I'm having a good week.
Good.
And,
Good.
And there are challenges, and there's a lot happening that I love that I'm doing, and allowing the universe, spirit, my own God consciousness to help me figure out how all this fits into my life, that I want to be full. And for time like this, time for my friendships, time for people I love, my husband, my family, myself, and the things I am called to do.
Yeah.
Because I've done it the other way, where I was not even on the list of priorities. And I threw myself into my work. And then every 6 months I was really, really sick, like with the flu for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I have no ambition to live like that ever again. And so I just let it go. I put it out there and I said, show me how I can bring this to life and not lose my life. And to have a full life and have even more life and more fulfillment, more grace, more peace, more joy, more time, and fold this into my schedule. And of course, we always get an answer, don't we?
Always.
We always do. And it seems like since I've gotten that answer, some, other stuff, other challenges have come up, and it is good. And it has necessitated that I deepen my spiritual practice, broaden it a bit, expand it a bit, and engage in that spiritual, everything's a spiritual space, but to spend time nurturing that more often during the day. And somehow that has made me feel like I have more space.
Yeah.
That part.
That's the paradox, right?
Yeah. It's amazing.
One of my mentors, Reverend Chris Chenoweth, used to say when he was truly busy, he would time tithe. He would spend 6 minutes of every hour in prayer. And that expanded time enough for him to get done everything he needed to do and more.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And the more I tune in, the more things just kind of flow.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I
Awesome
think
sauce.
we'll all be doing that from now on because we know it works.
Let's do that. So I'm in. Who wants to go next? Who's going next, Melinda? Is Pjae next?
Yeah, Pjae's next since I'm in
Okay.
charge, apparently. My favorite place to be.
So PJ's having a great week. I'm sure I should be last week that I got back from Thailand and I had a wonderful, wonderful time. And I'm having some delayed reactions to returning, which I don't generally have, and just some travel illnesses and tiredness and just some stuff going on with my house that just I can't figure out what's happening. Um, but all of that seems to just be giving me time to relax, to just, you just want to come back and think, oh, I got to catch up, I got to catch up, I got to catch up. And so
Mm.
there's no ability to catch up because I'm not feeling well enough. So I'm like, oh, all right. And I went to take, I've got my classes scheduled. So I'll take, I'm taking this class online, this wonderful spiritual coaching class, which I absolutely love. And you're supposed to be through with it in October. I started it in this is April, March. I started the last week in March, and you should be finished with it in October. And I was telling everybody, I don't have time for that. I need to get finished right away because I'm loving it. I'm just jumping into it. So I'm going to be finished. I'll be finished by May, by the end of May. So I got a letter from the school and said, hey, congratulations, you finished the class. I'm like, what? Are you kidding? I, oh, I guess I did. I just was going through it so fast, and so much of it I already relate to and believe in. So it's just kind of giving me words to say what I already know. It's
You
been
didn't need
fantastic.
any
So
convincing.
exactly. So it's just I've learned a lot of new things, but really they're in line with what I already know. So it was just a perfect thing. And now it's just about the business of the coaching that I'm going to be doing. So it's all business stuff left that's left to do, how to put your business together, how to, how to enroll people and just how to do your workshops and things like that. But the class itself is already done. I'm like, all right then. So way to claim something.
Awesome.
It's
Good for
awesome
you.
stuff. So that gave me, since I was through, I could actually take these couple of days off that I needed to take off to take care of this illness that's happening and not feel bad about it. So thought I was going to miss my deadline of being done in May, but no, I'm done in April. So yeah,
Awesome.
awesome stuff.
Well, I am, and it's interesting that I've been in Al-Anon for 20, almost 30 years to learn how to not say how I am by saying how my loved one is.
Ah,
So when I was
yeah,
younger, I really didn't know. It was whatever was going on with him. That's how I
it's
was.
affecting you. Yes.
But to a certain extent, that's kind of the way it is right now with my husband's illness. So he's out of the hospital, which makes life much more wonderful in a lot of ways. We get to spread out. We get to have some privacy. We get to be in our home with our animals, eat homemade food and not hospital food. Oh my gosh.
Sleep in your own bed.
Sleep in our own bed. Exactly. It's a good thing. And he requires a lot of care and it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
So it's both. I'm very grateful for the good and I'm tired. And Kim and I were talking earlier and she was talking, sort of reassuring me because I was saying, I'm not sure I'm showing up as my best self always. And she said, let's expand what your best self is, that this is a multi-layered, multifaceted thing that's going on in my life right now with my husband's
Yeah.
health. And therefore, my response to it is allowed to be multi-layered and multifaceted.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. I love him. I will do whatever it takes. And I get tired. And I know this will shock you, grumpy and bossy.
Say it ain't so.
And there's some grieving that's going on as we're like, okay,
Yeah.
this is kind of a new normal. And some of the things that we had planned in the next few months, in the next year, are pretty sure not going to be happening. And, we're just kind of sitting with the question. And when When does normal life resume, and what does that mean? And is this
Exactly.
part of the new
That
normal?
part.
So all of that is to say that I'm very grateful, and I'm carrying fear, and certainly I'm carrying impatience. I want to know, I want to have the answers, I want people to do what they're supposed to be so I can be okay. And the other layers know that it doesn't work that way. So the 4-year-old me gets to want what she wants, and the rest of me gets to go, oh, honey,
Okay.
yeah,
Bless
but
your
you don't
heart.
get that, but we love you anyway. It's okay.
Yeah. It's all
So
right.
that's where I am today.
Yeah.
That's where I
You know,
am
I
today.
just had a thought. Maybe we could have, maybe it's not about a new normal, maybe it's about a new now.
A new now.
A new
Mm.
now that, you know, that the present right here is not what I expected. And I don't know that we can call it normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Because who
just
knows
a
if
new
this now is
now.
going to stay as a now. There's going to be another now in the next now. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I think we
Yeah.
should write that down, and that's the
I think
top.
we have to write that down.
The new now. The new now.
There's no new normal, there's a new now.
The new now.
Yeah.
New now. I am actually writing it. Okay. So that's where I am. And as we were talking about oneness, I have a couple of quotes that I wanted to share. We're talking about oneness versus duality. So the oneness, this quote from Marianne Williamson, there's only one of us here. I love that. The here brings it into this really visceral space, not just one of us, but one of us here. In this, we're looking at this picture with 3 women here, but there's only one of us here in a very true sense. Anyway, she says, there's only one of us here. What we give to others, we give to ourselves. What we withhold from others, we withhold from ourselves. In any moment when we choose fear instead of love, we deny ourselves the experience of paradise.
Mm.
Dang, I'm living that right now, y'all.
Mm.
When I go into fear, I forget that I'm already in paradise.
Yes.
Things are already, God is good and all is well.
Oh, it is. It is. It is.
So the other quote is from Seng Khan, who was a 3rd patriarch of Chinese Buddhism. And he, instead of saying one, said not two. In the not two are no separate things. In the not two are no separate things, yet all things are included.
Mm.
So we can say all things and know that all things is really just one thing.
Yes. And that's how they're all included, because it's just the one. Yes.
So what's your understanding of oneness, and I'm thinking of the ways since I joined a Unity church back in the
Absolutely.
80s,
Absolutely.
the way I thought of unity and oneness then, and the way I think of it now, and how much it's grown and evolved and changed.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm
And it
interested
keeps
to hear
on.
what y'all
It
have
keeps
to
on
say.
going. For me, because my religious background is steeped in what I learned in Waco, Texas. And so very Black Baptist. God will strike you down. He's mad at you if you. I mean, I was in a very abusive relationship, and I actually talked to my minister about it, and he said, "Oh no, you can't leave. I mean, God doesn't approve of that. You have to stay married." I'm sorry. Even though I'm getting my kicked every day, I'm supposed to stay there? Yeah, okay. Huh. So in your mind, God only looks after the guys. Okay. Next. Not a good answer for me. And so the whole idea was that there was a heaven and a hell. There's a God, and there's a devil you're always fighting with to do the things that God wants you to do. And therein was the rub for me, because at the same time that we're saying God is all, we're constantly fighting with and blaming a devil or another entity on any things that go wrong in our lives. And it's either, and that's where it just got crystal clear to me. It's either one or it's not. And it is one. And so the thing that came to me was, if God is all there is, where is there room for a devil? Can't be. Can't be. All it has to be is us as human beings trying to explain away some of the negative things that we end up doing and we don't like about ourselves. So I really want to put off on some other entity. It wasn't me. And like was that one that black comedian for
Flip Wilson.
Flip Wilson? The devil made me do it.
Devil made me do
You
it.
know, the devil made me do it. The devil made me do it. And so having a convenient excuse. But for me, when I understood that all there is God, then that means that everything I'm looking at, everything I'm surrounded by, everything that's in my life, every understanding that I have is based on God in me. And so anything that I don't understand is a misunderstanding on my part. It's just a misunderstanding. Um, I can't it doesn't allow me, if I know that I'm looking at God, everyone I'm speaking to, everything I'm around, everything I'm doing, I am reminded that God is present here now. And so act as if that is true. And if that is true, how would you speak to God? Even when I'm speaking to myself. Is that how you would talk to God? When I'm speaking, right? When I'm
Mm.
speaking to other people who maybe upset me, is that how you want to talk to God? And so that's how I look at it. That's the difference for me between duality and seeing unity in and oneness in everything. And there's more to be said, but I just want to leave that briefly. That was the quick understanding that I got, and that I carry with me when I understand oneness.
It's beautiful.
It's what works for me.
I think in the beginning, because I also came from a very fundamentalist background, Church of Christ. We thought you Baptists were the swinging liberals.
My gosh,
You made noise.
we did. The
We didn't make
music,
noise in
singing,
that church.
instruments. Ooh. Yeah.
God must have been making noise and think you were frolicking with the devil or something. I don't know. But I also was in a marriage that was abusive, and I didn't go to my minister who told me to stay in. I went to my own self and went, well, here's what you've been taught. This is your bed. Jesus wants you to lie in it. You made this promise. There are commandments. You don't want to break them. You'll go to hell.
Right.
I told myself all that.
Marriage is
I
sacred.
didn't even listen to anybody outside of me. I had absorbed that enough that I was able to completely do the number on myself.
Need no help from anyone else.
Right. No help from anyone else. But then I realized when my daughter was born, I got real clear. Okay, well, she didn't make this bed. What sin did she commit? You know,
Right.
Jesus talked about that. No, that we don't get punished for the sins of the father. Then I'm not going to let my child get punished for the sins of the mother. So I got clear about what I needed to do. I wasn't really clear about how I was going to figure out to be okay with it, but I was clear about what I needed to do, which was to get her and get out. And the understanding of that came later, but kind of all at once. New thought, 12-step, new friends,
new understandings,
all came about. And I came to a place where it's just like, if God is love, then that's what I serve.
Yes.
Period. That's what I believe in, and that's what I serve. So anything that doesn't look like love, I don't have to have any truck with that. That was my understanding at the time. That love is the connection that makes us, that brings us into unity. But still, in a lot of ways, in my mind, I think there was still duality going on. Still of, these people are doing it wrong, which is why I have to go through all this healing to figure out what's next for me. And over the years, it's really, I just so completely, just really profoundly, completely understand, except when I forget, that that idea of there's only one of us here, everything that has happened was exactly what was supposed to happen at exactly the time it was supposed to, for me to learn exactly what I need to learn.
Right.
And every step up to here brought me to here. And here is where I'm supposed to be. And I'll be led to what the next thing is, which means there are no bad guys in the story.
No,
There are only characters who keep the story going, who keep the story alive, right?
Exactly.
So
Correct.
I don't get to say they were bad and I overcame how bad they were by getting all spiritual.
Yeah.
And when you reach that point, of going, no, I don't regret anything. I don't even want to label that anything went wrong anymore. I just can't do that.
No.
And
It's
so
an
that brings
experience.
into wisdom to today. If nothing went wrong back then, that means that nothing that's happening right now that's annoying me is wrong.
Correct.
And I can integrate all of that.
Right.
One thing that really helps me is to see it. I like to think we're one organism. We are one body. So not all the members of the body do the same job.
Correct.
You know,
Very
some
good
of them
thinking.
have more glamorous jobs than others, you know, and sometimes things seem to malfunction, but are they really malfunctioning? Or is that just part of being a body, you
Right.
know? And to think that we are one organism, but the toe bone doesn't know nothing about the ear, you know? And so we can just go, I don't need to know about that. If something happens that is beyond my understanding, that I can't seem to fit in my worldview of love, then I go, that's love expressing in a way that I don't yet understand.
I don't know how you say I don't yet.
I don't yet understand. But I chose to believe that it's love. And so it's love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Kim, before you get ready to do, we're going to take a quick break
Let's take a break.
and come on back in. And I know you weren't quite finished, Melinda, but we'll come back.
No, that's good.
Okay. All right. So we
Welcome
are back.
Here we are again.
Yay.
So I came out of Catholicism,
Mm.
and oneness is not even.
Yeah.
You're so apart from what God is, that there's not even a discussion
Right.
about this connection. And in Mass all the time, right before communion, we would say, "I'm not worthy, but only say the word, and I shall be healed." But that healing had to come from a God outside of me to judge me as worthy, not as magnificence, not as love, but just freaking
For the,
worthy.
of my time today.
And enough, and enough in this moment, which is minuscule compared to the greatness and glory of God. So, there was a time where that just didn't work for me anymore. And I remember distinctly being at Mass and getting ready to say that very sentence. And I went,
No.
I'm not saying that ever again. And I remember continuing to go to Mass, but I would just shut up during that thing because I had not left. I didn't know what was next, but I knew I could not utter that sentence. So I would just shut up while everybody else was saying it. And then I would have communion. And then at some point I left, and I've told that story before, but I left and I started searching. And the idea of oneness, as I was getting acquainted with what I later discovered were new thought principles, that just resonated. I have no other reason to believe it, other than my heart told me this was true and that this was the God I always thought existed. And that I was a part of, not, well, in the beginning, that I was a part of it. And then I started reading and talking more about, hearing about oneness, and remembering that Jesus often said the Father and I are one. Before every miracle, before everything that he performed, all the work that he did, he would invoke that oneness because he knew that that was first cause for everything that needed to be done, certainly for every miracle. So, before the 5,000, when he's changing water into wine, at any time he was asked or thought there was ready something for him to step into, he always invoked that.
Yeah. Yes.
And, we believe Jesus is way shower. So yeah,
We believe him.
he did. And I started living from that statement, that the Father and I are one. And what does that mean about how I can show up in this moment?
Correct.
How I can say what I'm supposed to say, or not say what I think I should say, or do something, or
Hold my peace.
Yes. And so, this oneness for me now is about that God consciousness is all there is. And that even as I am an individuated expression of God, I am also all there is. So I am the observer, the observed, and the observation at the same time. And which is mind-boggling, but I don't know that it's for us to wrap our minds around. I think we wrap our hearts around that.
Oh, love how you said that.
At some point, the mind just goes, all right, doesn't compute.
All right.
You just said three things that do not go together. It's like Sesame Street. Which of these is not like the other? None of them are like the other. And yet, quantum physicists are starting to get to that. The ones who are open to it. That's always been what metaphysics is.
Yeah.
That I am an expression of the divine, and that means all of that power, the same power that is of the universe, is mine.
Yeah.
And so how do I live now knowing that?
Exactly.
And so that's my go-to. I find that coming up for me during the day now as I'm getting ready to do something. And I'm thinking about how I am expressing. And then the thought comes, is this really greatness? I got that from a Joe Dispenza video I listened to lately. How could greatness show up today? And I'll think, is this my God self showing up right now? Or am I playing small?
Right.
Am I in duality where God's out there and I'm this little thing down here praying for worthiness? Or am I truly divine love, the divine magnificence in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Am I acting as God consciousness?
Yeah. Just like Pjae saying, is this how I talk to God? Is this what I want to say to God?
Just want to say, girl?
Yeah.
Because we say it to God, we say it as God.
Ask God.
And we are what we say.
Right.
The observer, the observed.
Exactly.
And part of the challenge, I think, with oneness versus duality is the language of it. So many of us are used to praying, Mother, Father, God, or Dear God, or Father God, or however you say it, which is praying to something when we are the something. And so we are affirming oneness, yet speaking duality. And that's hard. It's a switch in paradigm in language.
Yeah, it really is. I know when I finally, realized that, okay, this God that I was raised with, that's not going to work for me. The only way I could step away was to shut it down completely and just say, okay, I don't know what's going on. I can't do it. So I had to just step away and out, always in hopes, always having a conversation with spirit. That's one thing that I've always had in my mind. And Amber here, one of our listeners here, she's saying that she finds it difficult to separate what her mind and brain is talking about from what she feels in her soul, what God is trying to say. And so part of what we do in terms of meditation and practice and is to make sure that before times of troubles, that we are clear about what that voice sounds like to us. And I say voice, like it doesn't have to necessarily be someone talking or something talking. It's whatever whatever, however God responds to you, and you know for sure it is God. And I remember my sister, my oldest sister, she was really funny. She loved God so much, and she was just really into her church, just a great person. And she said, I talked to God and I said, I'm deaf, so you have to talk loud. Make sure I hear you. And so whatever you need from God, you can just tell God that. Whatever you need. And that's the thing, it's like, are my thoughts what my soul is what Amber is asking. And so part of the thing, Amber, is not to try to get your mind to tell you. Just ask God, make it clear. When you're speaking to me, when you're giving me an answer, make it clear. Speak to me in a way that I can understand, where there's no doubt in my mind or heart that it's you speaking. Just ask for that. That's the prayer. That's the
And
prayer.
Amber's asking, are my thoughts what my soul is? And I would say yes and no. No, your thoughts are not your soul. Your soul is so much deeper, so much more expanded than just your thoughts. And our thoughts are so hemmed in by language, like Kim was talking about. We only have this much language to put around things, and it's very difficult for us to process concepts that we don't have language for. Even in our own minds, it's difficult. And yet the thoughts are all part of the oneness. So yeah, your thoughts are your soul, and I'm your soul, and the mountains behind Pjae are your soul. And so yes, and no. And so I think that the deal is, and I'm going to say this from a more sort of Buddhist perspective, is not to identify with your thoughts. To go, there's a thought. That's
Yes.
a thought.
Let it come and go. Yes.
It's not who I am.
Like a cloud.
If it has something to inform me that leads me to be more loving, then awesome. Welcome it in. If it doesn't, then I can put it on a shelf for later. Maybe I just don't get it right now. Or I can go, that's not working for me. And go with what does. Because this is the great thing. There's no way to do it wrong. There's no way to do it wrong.
And just Sherry's asking, how do you begin in prayer? How do you begin in prayer? So we all have our thoughts. What do you guys want to share with her about that? How do you begin in prayer?
I sit and I'm still, and I come to a feeling of oneness now before I pray. And then my praying is usually affirming what it is I choose to believe about whatever it is I'm grappling with. So if I am dealing with a challenge with someone else, in a relationship, I think about, before I go into prayer, what is it that I would love to have happen? And if I don't really know, then I ask Spirit, what would love look like in this situation, which is usually different from what I'm thinking. And then I find some way to affirm that, and then I have some quiet time, get to a place where I'm feeling that oneness. And spiritual practice helps me to know what that is for me. And then it's really about seeing the loving conclusion, or a loving conclusion, and affirming that. Because I think, and I talked about this last Sunday, that we have a question, we have a problem, then we have a question kind of, and then we have a prayer, and then we have an answer. And all of that is us.
Yes.
It's our journey from crap, I got this problem, to really, what is my question? What do I really want?
Yes.
Then how do I get God in the mix, my God consciousness in the mix? And then I am now to do or be something. And we are always the answer to our prayers.
Mm-hmm.
So Sherry is now asking what language you use. And that's an interesting thing, because when I pray with just me in the room, versus when I'm praying with my congregation, or praying with a group, or praying with an individual, I don't I think what Kim maybe was describing is there's a feeling that's beyond language that I can do for myself. But when I'm speaking a prayer aloud, the language that I use, I vary it because I don't want to become too identified with any one thing, but divine presence, great mystery, great spirit, very presence of love. I use all kinds of, because to me, all of those mean exactly the same thing.
Right.
I could just say, love, here's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And understand that I am the love. I am the one who loves. I am the one that receives love. I'm all of that. And what I'm really doing is identifying myself with love, identifying myself with spirit, identifying myself with presence.
Yes.
And I call it divine presence. And divine presence really works really well for me because it brings, it reminds me that I'm not invoking some God who is not here until I ask for it. I am acknowledging what's already present in me and around me. Yeah. And so, and I think we all will develop our own language that works for us. If Father, Mother, God works for you, then use that. Whatever works for you. Because
with God of my understanding, just whatever.
It's
Spirit, George.
There's that place where you're not praying to anything, but I think there's also, for me at least, there was a long space during which I really still was praying to something. Not that I thought it was necessarily separate from me, but if I think of spirit as the ocean, and I think of myself as a wave, no wave is the whole ocean. And yet each wave is nothing but ocean. It's not made out of anything else except ocean. So I can expand from my waviness to, okay, I'm opening to the whole ocean because that's who I am. That's just I like to think, I tend to think in analogies and metaphors. And so that's the metaphor that really works for me, is that there is this expansion from, even though I'm aware that I'm a wave, that I'm all ocean, that there is greater ocean than just this wave. And I can expand out into that.
Yeah. And for me, when I first started, I'm a steps person. And when I'm at service or whatever, I'm doing my congregation, three action steps, 5 steps. It's always about steps. And so for me, I use an acronym, and it doesn't mean anything, but it's just RUCAT, which is RUCATT. And for me, it's just the first thing is recognize that there is one. You are one with the one. Just recognize from the very beginning, and you are united. The RU is you recognize and you're united. You already know this. You are one with that presence of God. They're the answers to everything you want to know, the knowledge, the awareness, the mysteries, the information that you need. That's all available to you right here and right now in the middle of this prayer. And so RU is recognize and unite, and then choose. What is it that you want? And if you don't know what you want, you could just say that. Make it clear to me what is necessary for this next step, for my heart to be clear, for my heart to, whatever is happening to you, or for you, or whatever, to have that cleared up. You don't have to know exactly what you want. You can say that, Spirit, you know what's on my heart. If you know what's on my heart, help me. Just that enough. And so it's let me just finish the whole thing. RUCA is that you, and then you just accept it. Sometimes we pray for something, but we won't accept the answer. We won't actually accept, like we're not good enough to receive an answered prayer. And so just in your own heart and mind, just whatever comes to you, just accept it. Accept the good that God is here with you for. And then the key is just to trust. The moment we pray, it is already done in spirit. The time lag is getting it into the physical plane. But the prayer is done and answered. And then there's actually 2 T's. So it's trusted, and then just give thanks. Thank you, God. And we're done. So that helped me to get started. And I don't do that anymore, because it's just as soon as I get in, I'm right with spirit and just say what I'm saying. But that's just a way to get going, if you're asking that question.
Before we go to our break, and wasn't meaning to, I'm not coming back after the break. So I just wanted,
Yes.
I've got to take my husband to a doctor's appointment. So I just wanted to say thank you all who shared in the program today. We love it when you ask questions. We love it when you're participating and you make us think. And I love you two women, and I love all of you who are listening. And I bless you as we go on a short break.
We love you too, and love to Bob.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Blessings. Oh, we had a new commercial, looks like. I don't remember seeing that one before. That was
Oh no, some funky music.
okay. Funky Town.
I just put in a comment that, I probably don't pray anymore, as most of us have understood prayer, because my prayers now are not an asking for something. My prayer now is feeling that oneness, getting myself to where I am fully aware of the oneness of God, which encompasses all there is. And then once I'm there, whatever it was I was grappling with before either ceases to exist, or I have, I know that it is taken care of in a way that is my highest and best. And that doesn't always mean that there's something for me to do. Usually it means that there's something for me to, that I need to be in that fully aware of the God space and the Godness of the universe and of myself. And then somehow I know my way forward. So really, I think prayer time for me is settling into the awareness of God again and pulling myself away from seeing just an issue or a problem. And knowing that I am all of that, even as I am an individual, as a human being, I'm an individual expression of the divine, but I'm also all that there is. Because that's the nature of consciousness. And there's no separation amongst anything. And we are all interacting with each other, like we're all individual threads of this mosaic, but we are the mosaic at the same time.
And I don't really know where this came from. It doesn't really matter. But I speak with God just like I'm talking to you right now, all the time, just anytime, anywhere. And I call it George. I just give it a name, for whatever reason it's George. And I would say something like, I might be just walking and, I see something in front of me and I have a thought and I'm just like, George, what's this about? What is this about? What is mine to do? I just speak to George all the time. I have like a running conversation in my head all the time because you're living and you're interacting with other gods, other manifestations of God as you go through your day. And so as I run into God everywhere I go, and I want to understand and love and know, you know what I mean, and love them and know the truth for them, whether they recognize it or not. I do. I want to, and that's a request that I have of my own heart. And I ask God, well, what's it about? What's mine to do here? What do we need? What do we need? What do we need here? All the time, and absolutely expecting an answer, absolutely expecting something, because there's nothing for you to do. It's not yours to do. It's theirs to do. Or and the answer is always there. It's very clear in my head, like I'm talking to you right now. So I'm saying all that to say that each one of us, when we begin our prayer life, or in the middle of our prayer life, or wherever you may be in your prayer life, we may start it off in one way, but it absolutely expands as you get comfortable and as you are practicing it, and you learn to hear or feel or see that God presence in you and everyone else, it just expands and becomes you consciously, becomes consciously you. And that's to me such a huge gift, such a huge gift. Yeah.
Yeah, this so it's interesting, when we're in front of our congregations, there's always this challenge. I know that there are people in the room who are still in duality
Sure.
and think of God as an entity out there that becomes displeased, angry,
Mm-hmm.
that tests us, that might be pleased, but that we have to earn something with that God and from that God. And so and I'm in the oneness camp, so I know who I'm talking to. So I have to, I think it's my challenge and my job to be in both places and to invite them into the oneness camp, which I think for me, it has offered freedom.
Yes.
The other thing, though, is it puts things squarely on my shoulders,
Yes.
which is often uncomfortable because there are sometimes I just want to shed something. I think, all right, I don't want this. I didn't ask for this, and that's a whole other show, whether or not I
Right.
asked for it or not. As Oprah would say, that's a whole
And
other
I was just
show.
going to say, oh, but we did.
Oh, but I
Exactly.
did.
Oh, but we
And
did.
and in that process, I am trying to figure out what's next. And so um, I, I think it empowers us beyond all things. It empowers us with the power of the universe.
Yes.
But we have to be willing to take that on. I
Yes.
mean, we have it, but we don't have to harness it. Most of us, I think, do not.
Yes.
And I think part of life, and maybe as we evolve as humans, we will learn more about how to harness that power. And because I think we will have to in order to save ourselves and the planet. But
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
that's the second show. So I think we have to be able to speak about it all and invite people into expanding their vision of who and what they are, because that's what oneness did for me. It expanded my idea of who and what I am.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of work. And it still is, because it continues.
It
And with
continues.
each new challenge, that expands, doesn't it?
Right.
For me,
Correct.
it does. And I know it
Correct.
does for you, because you do the work. That's one of the things I love about you and Melinda. We do our work.
We do the work. Yeah.
Our work is usually expanding our idea about who and what we are based upon the new, what I call it, the new now.
The new now. The
Not
new now. I love that. It's about the new normal, and we're calling it the new now, because what's normal?
Yeah,
It's
what's normal?
now. Ooh, what's normal? What does that mean? What does that even mean? So it's the new now as we're expanding. And part of the every morning, I have I think establishing your spiritual practice, whatever that means to you. And mine happens every morning before my feet hit the ground. I have this conversation with myself, with spirit, and just invite myself to be consciously aware of the power of God in me and in all of us, so that I'm not out there fixing people. I'm not I'm not trying to fix myself. I'm trying to understand as I go through my day what is mine to do, where does this take me, what and knowing what I value. I talk about this a lot, just knowing what your at least at minimal your top 5 values are, so they guide your day, what matters to you, so that you show up as yourself, as completely who you are in all instances, and no one takes you out of that. And you're walking with spirit to make sure I show up. Unconditional love is a big deal for me. Telling the truth is a big deal for me. Family, tribe, uh, uh, um, courage. I think everything we do, even right now, even looking at and trying to develop your own understanding and awareness of who God is in your life, and accepting that information that you're getting from God, it takes courage to step into the bigger you. The bigger you that actually knows. When you don't know why you just know. And so you begin to trust that inner space within you that knows things. It knows things because you asked and it's sharing with you. And the person, how do I know that? You don't even ask that question. You know because you asked. And because you are God. And because you are consciously connecting all throughout your day with that spirit of God in you. So it just it's so vast how it works, and it doesn't work the same way for. I don't think it works the same way for any two people. Quite frankly, I don't.
Yeah, and in the universe, there's a billion, trillion, gazillion possibilities at any given
Exactly.
time. And so, with 8 billion people on the planet, that's a lot of ideas, possibilities.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think, gosh, you were talking about courage. I think it's Maya Angelou who said, you must have courage before any other value is invoked, because it takes courage to move forward. It takes courage to change. It
Yes.
takes courage to think that you might need to expand. You don't have all the answers
Yes.
currently, and that there's something else to learn here. There's something else to be here.
Yes. Yes. And to
And
step
'cause
out
there are
and
some
trust.
days I know I'm not. In the moment, I know I'm not being courageous, but now the thought comes up. I get a picture of how I could be showing up, and I say, "Oh, okay, am I going to do that or not?" And
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I can
It's a
I can
choice.
choose what I want,
It's a choice.
and I can play small if I want, or play differently, or do I want to play in a different space?
That's the thing. Because God isn't going to love us more or less no matter what we do. We are completely and totally loved. And it's
No
just
matter what
us,
we choose.
no
Yeah.
matter what we do, it's just us trying to expand our understanding and awareness and be more God. Just
Mhm.
allow more God in our lives as we go through it in our actions and thoughts and activities. That's what it's doing. So there's no wrong. There's no upset about what you decide to do unless you want to play small because what, I'm tired today, and that's a big old deal. I know I don't want to step into it. Okay,
Mhm.
all right, fine. You're the only person pressuring you.
Yeah.
The only where it's coming from. So, um,
Yeah.
so
This
our
uh, duality versus
yes,
oneness is a big
yes,
thing, and I think we battle with that in New Thought. And certainly, if you like, when I'm reading Fillmore and just about anybody, Emmett Fox, when you read all of them, especially the earlier works, and even now, a lot of the language is about duality. And as we're speaking in that kind of duality language, we are talking about oneness. And that's always the issue.
exactly.
The language is so different if we're in the oneness camp completely, and yet not everybody's there. So I think it is a matter of inviting people into thinking differently. It is a new paradigm for living and
Yeah,
thinking and believing.
it it is, and it's the I'm just going over here. So sorry, excuse me. And it's the big R word, because as we own more of who we are, we recognize and connect with the truth of our being that we are individualized expressions of the divine. We are the divine, and everybody who speaks to us is the divine. Um, then it calls forth more out of us. It calls us to do more, and it's harder. It's harder not to do what you're called to do when you know that everything you need to do is available to you, and so you can no longer deny that. And so it just it's a matter of just deciding whether you do or you don't want to do what it is that's being called forth. But we're constantly evolving,
Hmm.
and there's more and more. I get so excited. I'm not going to give away my age, but I'm no spring chicken. And I'm amazed at how much you can continue to learn. I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm thrilled at what's next. What's next? The climbing up what I call climbing up the ladder. What is next with me and God, me and George, me and all the Georges? What we get to do
Yeah,
together. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, Amber, thank you for your comment. She said, I love this. At a very young age, I remember feeling that the older version of myself was helping me figure it out or save myself in a way. I felt as if that part of me has already been in this place. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
certainly there. these things you all have mentioned are helping me understand and appreciate this thought of mine. Great, great, great.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you
a whole
guys.
new way of thinking, isn't it, Amber? Yes. Yeah. And I use that now because I've always used like an avatar. So I have a picture of the future Kim, who is knocking it out of the park all the time, and working this peace initiative that I have, and I've got those 8,945 people. And what would she be doing? How would she handle this? And so I use her as my
Yes.
guide,
Yes.
that future self. When I'm grappling with things, I think that person that is my future self, even if it is 10 minutes from now, is guiding me to be something, to be an expanded me. And what would that look like? And am I willing to say yes to that?
Exactly.
Ooh,
Exactly.
5 minutes left. Doesn't it always go fast?
Oh my stars. Didn't we just sit down? Didn't we just sit down? But
So final thoughts. What do we have in last?
I'm just sitting in my throat. It's just acting crazy. Just the idea of duality versus oneness. For me, there can be nothing else. There is only oneness. It's how, and for me, when I say for me, because I'm saying it's how I choose to live. When I believe that there is only one, and that we are connected, and I can't remember what it was that Melinda said at the beginning. She said, I do to you, or what I get from you, something. But anyway, whatever you do,
We do to all of us.
we do to all of us. It's all intertwined and effective. And so the reason that's important for me is that I don't get to act crazy. I can't say that I believe in unconditional love on the one hand, and then even think badly about someone. Start telling stories. We start telling stories in our heads about people we just see, and we start making up these crazy stories about them. And I'm letting go of these story making that we seem to want to do. And well, the only story that I actually do make now is just to own. I'm looking at spirit. I'm looking at the God. I'm looking at the God in me, and I'm so excited and interested in interacting and see what is mine to do to help a fellow traveler along the way, or perhaps they're going to help me along the way. I know we're here together for a reason. I'm always excited to see what exactly that reason is. So the oneness is it's the most exciting thing I've ever heard of. And own and take to heart and know is absolute truth, absolute truth. And I think that if we could all understand that, if I'm hurting you, I'm hurting me. If I'm loving you, I'm loving me. And I say to people a lot, I don't think they quite understand it. I'm pretty sure they will. It'll fall on them at some point. But um, you just you can't love someone else if you don't love yourself. You don't know what it looks like. You don't know what it looks like. So whatever you want to give to someone else, you already have to give it to yourself. Forgiveness, love, compassion, all of those things. You have to be that way with yourself first. And then you absolutely know what it's like to give it to someone else. To give to someone else. So those are my final thoughts for this moment.
And I just think it's important to remember that no matter where we are in our consciousness about that, about God and our relationship to God, is it oneness, duality, that there, like you said, there are no wrong answers, and we just are where we are, and it's all a journey. And to be, I just try to be open and to be willing to expand, and to know that always along this journey that I am love and loved, and we are the love itself.
Exactly.
We are the
Rather than
love
love itself.
itself.
Right.
And if you can get to that, then I think that cures most things.
I think it does.
Not all of them.
A lot.
Not all of them.
Well, love is transformative. I mean, real love,
Yeah.
unconditional love is transformative. And if you just look at someone like you know who they really are, you know they're the divine. They they feel that look from you. They know what you are looking at, and that you can believe that before they do. It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing. It's a powerful gift. It's a power gift for all for both of us.
For
Both
both,
of us,
for
and
all of
both
us,
of us,
for
for all of us, all of us. It's a
all
powerful
there
gift.
is. Yes.
It's a powerful thing to do. So, um, those are the steps I would leave you with. Just see love in everyone. Just see who they really are. See who they really are, and know who you really are. You're the divine. Yeah, all the power you need is within you, and so it is.
And I think with that, the Reverend
Yeah.
Dr. Pjae Stanley has dropped the mic, and we are out
Boom.
and scene.
Scene.
Thanks for being with us, everybody.
Thank
See you
you.
next
Thank y'all
Tuesday.
so much. Bye. Love it.
Great comments today from the
I
folks.
know. I didn't even know we had these kind of people looking.